Greetings, Darklings, from across the interwebs. It is once again I, the Duchess, Precious Ken, here for the Sounds and Shadows podcast. I have lots of exciting things to talk about. First up, I had a bunch of unboxings come all at once, t-shirts, but today I have on my official Chant and Stoneburner tour shirt. Sadly, we did not get to go to that show because of everything that happened, and it was really depressing. I'm going to choose not to focus on that right now. But I am talking to Steven, and he's already trying to figure out how to get in front of people and back on the road. So we will have that coming up, and we might even have a Kalamazoo stop on the way. I'm in the works. So I'm excited for that. And then I went to a wrestling event for like the first time in 20 years. I went to AEW Battle of the Belts in Grand Rapids. And so in case Chris Jericho was there, I wore the new t-shirt that I received for Gloom Wizard so that people would think that it was a Chris Jericho thing and I was going Gloom Wizard. And I also, speaking of goth scene news there, brought my sign to tell Tony Khan that he needs to sign Trevor Aon, the goth wrestler. So that was exciting. Now, for the guest that I have today, this is one that we've been trying so long to have on the show and have on here, and the stars finally aligned and we made it happen. So it is my extreme pleasure to welcome Gabby, aka Eva X.
It's really good to be here. Thank you, Ken.
Hi, Gabby.
Hi.
I love you have your whole set with your logo on
Yes,
and everything. That's very cool.
if we're being honest, this is pretty much all Eric's doing. I am far lazier when I'm left to my own devices and like, right, blur out the whiteboard.
That's right. We don't need to give Eric credit for anything. This isn't about him. This is about talking about you. And I think that is exciting. And I want to start out a little bit, you and I have had this talk a little bit, but just tell me about your history and what was kind of that moment that said to you, music, I'm going to inflict this upon myself. Well, how did that come out where you decided this was for you? And tell me a little bit about your background that led up to this project, Eva X.
So I've been in various music products since before I got out of university. I was in a pop punk band with my brother for a few years. Interesting timing on that. One of the bars we did our very first shows at just announced their closure.
A lot of that going around.
Always, yeah, definitely. Always sad to lose a venue. And did that for a few years. Eventually concluded, I did all kinds of weird shit. I was briefly in a heavy metal project or two that didn't go anywhere. Briefly in one of those sorts of ensembles you'd see at theme parks, like 8-part covers of Ariana Grande.
Whoa! I'm gonna need you to take a time out. I'm sorry. Did you say J-pop covers of Ariana Grande?
No, 8-part, like 8-part.
8-part. Got it. Okay. Sorry. Because I'm excited for both, but I had to pump the brakes there and just be like, wait. Okay.
A J-pop cover of Ariana Grande would be fabulous. And one is very choir geek, but still fun.
That's cool too, but just when you said that, it was the same thing. It hit my head and I'm like, if this doesn't already exist, someone needs to do it immediately because you can have my money.
Yeah, can we just speak that into the void and make it happen, please? We could go. I could go for that. But yeah, eventually after a few fits and starts, I sort of arrived at the conclusion that 1, I wanted to kind of make my own music. Mm-hmm. And 2, I wanted to be the nerd behind the keyboard doing it. Yeah. So I started teaching myself production kind of in 2018. I hadn't really produced anything before then. Picked up a couple synths and got going. And then in 2019, I just launched Eva X officially, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Nice. So I'm really glad you brought that up because this is something that, I talked about when I interviewed Mary Shear, and I have a couple different artists, Saphira V, I've talked about this before, and the freaking importance of having women producers. women producers who then can produce other women without some dude being in the room. And I wondered, because I know that was important to you to be, like you said, the person behind the keyboard yourself. How much, and I also want to give a shout out to you here. I really, from kind of hearing your first single through this last one, have watched your production skills blossom as you have gone in a really awesome way. Why is that so important towards actually getting the art the way you hear it in your head?
So it just closing the gap between kind of what I picture in my head and what's coming out of the computer has been a massive help. For the album, I did have two fabulous co-producers in the room.
Mm-hmm.
They were both dudes, but we'll forgive them that because Shane and Adam are great.
Sure. Hey, and there's nothing wrong with having other people help, but the difference is having the skills yourself.
Yes.
Do what you want and have the final say.
Yes. And I definitely have a major hand in the construction of the pieces. I made the final call on what went on the album, and like everything on there is like it was my call what went in and what didn't. So it very much, like, even if there are other producers in the room, it's very much still me owning the project.
Yeah.
I'll take advice, but it's my call.
Exactly. So tell me a little bit then, that did you have some, for this new album coming out, central theme that you just really wanted to get through, when you had the control and the steering wheel?
I did. The theme did not necessarily survive contact with writing reality. I got the idea for the title actually a very long time ago. I've had it floating in my head for years when I saw an art exhibit while I was traveling. Basically, a bunch of artists took this anime character, like you can buy anime characters in catalog if you need background characters. If you didn't know, that's a thing you can do. And they bought this character who was basically like a portrait and minimal biography, and like basically the sort of character who's designed to show up for one shot and then generally actually get killed off, whatever have you.
Sure.
And they licensed the likeness out to a whole collective of artists who created derivative works based on their perception of this character.
Huh.
And one of them was called I Am Dreaming of a Reality, which got turned into the album title. So the whole thing started as an examination of how we kind of present ourselves and our stories, how we create our image and relate to others, especially through like digital media, social media, the internet. And then it kind of shifted over the years as I kept writing for it. And I don't know if that theme necessarily survived into the final album, but the songs are all great, so who cares?
There you go. Yes.
At some point it was like, do I want to be hardly attached to this theme, or do I want to have really good songs that, people can kind of engage with and relate to? And I kind of chose the latter. Well, maybe we'll try it again for the next album.
There you go. I mean, the reason I asked the question is because another aspect to me is that you take really seriously in doing your videos and telling a visual story along with your songs. And I think, to me, when I see that from an artist where the song matches the video really well in concept, it says, I wonder how much went into, like you said, a dry erase storyboard, putting together the whole idea, and then putting visuals along with that. How does doing that side of it really help tell the story of the album, the videos and the visual side?
It's a huge help. It really helps me kind of lock into and think about the themes of the album a lot. Machine and Whipping Girl both had pretty extensive shot list brainstorming shot treatments.
That was like a low budget film. That was really how it looked, and it had this cool like witchiness vibe. The one for
oh my god, that
like was a coven there. I actually just watched the new what do you call the Craft, the remake of it recently. And then when I rewatched your video, I was all like, yeah, that's super cool. The Craft.
So one of the very cool things about Whipping Girl is that I went to Tiffany, Persephone Blease, the main woman who appears in the video. She is a burlesque performer and model and visual artist in Calgary. And she's been a friend of mine for many years. And I basically said, hey, I have this song. Do you want to do a video? And she heard it. She said, absolutely. So I went over to her dungeon and we started brainstorming. And she brought in Mel and Shu, the other two models involved. And I basically gave them like the craft meets Killstar Goth was the only costuming direction I gave them.
Sure.
They brought in all their own costumes, their own stuff. The best was, I can't remember if the cane made the final production, but Shu's sword cane. Actually, yes, it did. It was what we used for the sacrifice. That was, she had a sword cane because she uses it to walk sometimes. It's like, I might need this. I'm like, yeah, that's the coolest thing ever. We're keeping it in.
That's awesome.
It was an awesome shoot. We got really lucky with the locations. We were able to use a friend's kind of basement dungeon setup. And we also were just, I don't know, snuck into Calgary parks and did some filming there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that was, to me, like, what was a really cool visual on it was that place in between electronica music and kind of the organic spiritual, witchcraft going on, and kind of the, technomancy blend.
The technomancy blend, yeah, that's interesting. That's something. So and by we, I mean I actually did a full backing video for Terminus, and the technomancy element was something that didn't really make it in the final cut because we just didn't have a lot of time to pull it together. But it's something I'd be keen to pull in future iterations.
Yeah.
The visual construction it's really cool. People like, to me, it's always very much a work in progress. There's always things that are changing, and you're kind of just tweaking and learning more about the project and about what I want out of it as I go along.
Yeah. You mentioned.
Anyway, we're going to be filming, I think, 2 more videos in August, so that should be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it.
Do you know what tracks you're going to be doing? Well, I'm sure you do. Can you reveal what tracks?
I can. We are doing video. We are filming videos for Control and Tear Down These Walls in the next couple months.
Nice. Are you anything exciting that you're kind of geeked for in terms of a location or something neat that you're hoping to have there?
We are looking at a very cool studio location for Tear Down These Walls. For Control, I think actually Control is going to have some really cool stuff location wise as well. It looks like we're going to get to borrow a very cool residence for it, so that should be nice.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So that is really cool. I'm looking forward to that. I still have to sit down and plot that out. I'm also, hopefully by the time this interview goes live, you'll know the tour dates I am working on, but I am in the process of working on several tour dates as well, with the previously announced Unconvention as kind of an anchoring date.
Nice, very cool.
Yeah, very exciting.
That's one that keeps coming up. Unconvention's great, and I know too. You guys were just out, and you mentioned it briefly a second ago. Terminus, which it looked just incredible. I was so jealous. It hurt.
It is like, it really is just a full-blown 4-night celebration of goth music in all its forms. It was a tremendous honor to be asked to play. And, I just hope we did the best justice. It was probably the most intimidating show I've ever done in my life.
That's a lot of people and a lot of hype. And also just everybody was there on stage.
Everyone who's there.
Yeah.
Is there. And it's just completely, it was a really cool experience. It was a very nerve-wracking one in many ways, but it was really, really cool. It was also nice because for that one, we were pretty much a full band.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've really liked doing with Eva X is kind of having a fuller band. I did a lot of streams that were just me. And a lot of live shows that were kind of just me and a synth player, but we brought in Eric on guitars, and he's a great guitarist. And for Black Blood, I was just like, somehow I think you can write great EBM guitars. Go nuts.
I mean, that's nice. And sometimes you got to throw a little eye candy out there. with Eric, use them if you've got them,
Exactly. Every band needs a cute goth dude.
um, you know, so I wanted to ask you about this too, that, I mean, it was a big performance, and I want to, give you a chance to talk about, some fun moments you had there. But when you're performing at something like that, where it is one of your breakthrough performances, maybe like your first time playing a big festival out there,
Yeah.
what do you do to kind of prepare yourself or psych yourself up? Because I know you are a visual performer, I mean, you've done, that for a while, and your aesthetic is part of what you're, but for anybody, I have to imagine it's still just hanging over you. How do you clear your head and get yourself into that space?
It's hard. I have to kind of take a few minutes. There's always a quick check-in with the band before we go on. To
Yeah,
me, it's still, that's still very much a work in progress as well.
sure.
Dealing with show nerves. It was weird. I found Mechanism was almost easier for that, and yet it was so huge. You just, for me, you walk on there, nail the first line, and then get lost in the music. I can always tell looking back at show photos, you hit a point where you stop care. It's funny for such an aesthetic thing. The only way I've found to perform and have it be good is to stop caring what it looks like.
Yep.
You do the practice, you drill the moves, you get everything ready to go, and then you just have to go out there, let the muscle memory carry you, and just commit to delivering the emotion of the performance and playing to the emotion of the crowd.
I love that you said that, because I think a lot of times people don't understand. I mean, even whether you're a shoegaze band kind of standing there hanging out, or, electronic dance music, where the expectation is that you're moving, you're doing something, and people don't understand how much goes into, you can't really think about that stuff once you
No,
hit
you cannot.
stage. You need to have already rehearsed it to a point. And it's weird to say rehearsing something like throwing emotion at a crowd while playing a live show, but you have to a point, have it down where your body just knows what to do, knows what chords to play, knows what, where you're looking towards the crowd and things like that. And then, like you said, just get lost in doing the singing performance that you're doing in that moment.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we really have been developing up more. It's funny, speaking of music videos, after the Black Blood video, the one challenge I found with it is that we basically improvised all the movements, and I just was like, well, we were just not prepared for this at all, were we? And so I went back and started I downloaded this app, Easy, I'm not even joking, and started to teach myself from the ground up how to dance, how to move in a space, basically dug into that. I've been doing that now for the better part of 2 years, off and on. We kind of moved countries in the middle there.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there is also that. And it really paid off dividends, just in terms of, I really feel like in the last few performances, we've been able to, and by we, I mean I have been able to deliver like the more physical, more energetic performance that to me is the honest heart of the band. And I'm really looking forward to pushing that forward a little further and delivering that many, many places in the fall, but on convention definitely is one of them.
Yeah. So I would love to give you a chance to kind of, tell your fans a little bit. You have had a lot of big personal stuff in this last year and a half too. And yeah, I mean, you guys, got married, you moved up there. Tell me a little bit about what life looks like up there for you guys now, and what you're trying to get started.
So life is pretty great right now. We spent the better part of 2 years going back and forth between Canada and the US.
And not just the US, down in Texas, way
to
the bottom.
It's not exactly a hopper we're not exactly talking the hopper to Montana. It was a Calgary to Texas, Austin, Texas, if we're being specific.
Yeah.
And obviously that's basically a full day's flight to get there. It's like I was lucky to have a job that allowed me to basically work anywhere. So I would go down for 2-3 months at a time. We actually filmed Machine in Texas.
Right.
And but it really challenges your ability to kind of work. Like I didn't have my full studio down there. I had a laptop. I could borrow Eric's mics and that. And I think actually the final vocals for definitely Machine, and I think a couple other tracks were actually recorded down in Austin there.
Mhm.
Although I'm not sure there's an appreciable difference between his setup and mine, at least in my ear. I don't know. Like I forget, some of the songs were done down there, some were done up here, and I forget which one is which now. But it really challenged our ability to plan long term and really put down roots. I was very much like, I don't even know where I'm going to be living in 2 years. How do I invest in this project in a way that makes sense? And that's meant some really interesting dynamics. The bulk of Eva X's fan base is still overwhelmingly in the United States of America.
Sure.
So I'm paying visa fees forever to tour, but I'm working on it. And so eventually, to make a long story short, Eric got his Canadian permanent residency. We looked at everything and decided to come out to Vancouver, and we live near Coquitlam, is how I will describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great, and we love it. I'm finally getting to settle into having my space and my gear with me 24/7. I'm getting really, really excited to start writing the next releases after this album. And it's just, we're kind of building/rebuilding our film business together.
Mhm.
And Eric is doing production work. And it's nice to be able to sit down and plan. And we're starting to make long-term plans to stay. And that's really wonderful.
That's awesome. Now, and here's another thing is, so, I mean, you've been there for quite a while in different parts, but Vancouver in particular is a music scene I am very obsessed with right now. It seems like every fourth band I'm interviewing is Vancouver. I'm like, what is going on in Vancouver? I've never been there. Tell me a little bit about the scene in Vancouver and how you're excited to now be, permanently roots in there.
So it's funny because a lot of the dynamic I think is that if you really want to tap into a music scene in Canada, your options are kind of Vancouver, Montreal, or Toronto. Mm-hmm. With apologies to the other 9 provinces and 3 territories.
Sure, but those are the biggies for sure.
They're the biggies for sure.
Yeah.
Toronto has really shitty winters, and in Montreal, especially if you're doing entertainment stuff, you do kind of need to be able to speak French. Yeah. So I think for us, we defaulted to Vancouver, and the winters don't suck here. You don't have to shovel rain.
Okay.
It's definitely a really cool, vibrant scene. We're very much, it's interesting because I find it, there's a lot of goth rock, a lot of post-punk. Mm-hmm. We're still connecting with a lot of the heavier synth projects and that out there. But we run into Ennetir a lot and a lot of other really cool bands and that are out here. We've started to make some band friends out in Victoria across the bay. Mm-hmm. And we've got some really cool synth stuff and that coming up that I'm really excited for. And I'm just really excited to kind of start to meet more people and connect a little more. It's definitely been a journey getting here.
I bet. And that's great to hear. And I don't know, I think I need to plot a trip to Vancouver. I need to get out there and see, because I keep having these stories and these interviews and these people, and they're like, tell you what, Ken, Vancouver is it. So yeah, I could probably even pop over and see Seattle or something on the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Visit some friends out there. So
Seattle is about a 3-hour drive south of here, as long as it's not a long line at the border.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And I went not
at all
to Seattle, so that would be one to throw in the hat.
Yeah, and Seattle, it is great to have Seattle right nearby. That's where a lot of the synth bands and that who we started to connect with at Mechanismus and that are based out of.
So I want to go back mentioning that for the festivals, because you've been doing so many of these. Did you have any standout moments, or better yet, standout bands, somebody you'd never seen before, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're on stage, and you were like, where has this been that you can tell my listeners about?
So Alice I hope everyone knows Black Flag. I slept on that one. I'm not even gonna pretend I didn't. I was actually quite unfamiliar with their work when I saw them at Terminus, and was like, fuck, this is really good. They were, I think they were hands down my favorite of the festival.
Wow.
They were awesome. And at Mechanismus, I knew of Alice a bit. I'd interacted with them. We've been on a few streams, but live they were just at a whole nother level. They have this really almost tribal, mystical, huge mix quality. They were really, really cool.
I'm so excited. I was supposed to see them a while back, and at the last minute, I like couldn't get anybody to drive with me and had a car issue.
Oh.
But I will definitely, and we're supposed to have them coming up on the show, so I'm excited for that too. That'll be fun.
They are great, and they're really sweet people. So
yeah,
that's also really cool too.
Yeah, they did the whole, Ken, we'll give you like a guest pad, put you on our guest. I'm like, it's cool. I'll buy my ticket. Save that for someone, because there's someone who needs that. And yeah, no, but they were just really sweet. I'm like, you don't have to do that. Who am I? Whatever. So
you're Ken, you're awesome.
So you have the album release coming up. Tell me about the date that it's coming out, where people can find it, and just why you are stoked for this release.
So I Dream of a Reality is coming out September 9th. You can buy it on my Bandcamp or on the Distortion Productions Bandcamp. They're both going to the same place. We made about 300 of these really pretty guys.
Ooh, those are cool.
I'm actually going to be doing an unboxing for these on my Instagram and TikTok sometime this week when time permits. Honestly, I'm just ridiculously proud of this album. To me, it really represents a new and kind of a proper beginning for Eva X.
Yeah.
Like everything else was the warm up. This to me is the real thing, the real moment that all of the work is built up to.
Yeah.
Every track is really, really great. They explore, to me, a whole lot of different facets of the artistry and identity of the project. I think it's a lot
of them. When I've seen that, whether I'm looking at your cover art right there, the videos that you've done, or just, you have this like Black Mirror science fiction episodal, kind of thing for the songs for it. And that is
that more.
What's that?
Yeah, I was just saying, you actually hit something nice. I'm like, I should lean into that more.
It is.
So,
that's what I love. And I love when a song like that, it tells a story with it, and it kind of goes together. I don't need each song to be a, the Wall concept album or something, but I love when there is something that ties an album and makes it an album.
I think there is, to me at least, there is a definite, there's an arc to the album. I as much as we kind of dropped the concept album concept partway through, I kind of strained over the track listing a little because I knew, I have to remind myself what it was. I actually, had it been up to me, I would have probably, well, it was up to me, but had I been entirely running free, I probably would have put Control first, but I think in hindsight, so Whipping Girl is the first track, just ended up making sense because everyone loves that track.
Sure.
And the rest kind of fell in as a bit of an artistic journey. So I have to read off here. I knew I wanted like some of the quieter stuff towards the back half. Spoilers. I wanted Hear the Silence and Tear Down. Hear the Silence is kind of like the pause before a big upbeat track. I wanted Tear Down These Walls at the end. And yeah, so we did actually, and by we I mean I, with some advice, construct
like a royal we.
That's kind of a royal. It's weird because it's the royal we. It's the royal we at this point. And I definitely get suggestions and advice, and I definitely take it and consider it all because I have some pretty good freaking advice around here.
You do, in general, and if you have great support, like nobody is doing this on their own these days in terms of it does. Like, there's just so much to know, so much to learn, so many, like, whether you're talking art or whatnot. And heck,
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the it takes a village to make an album idea, with sounds and shadows and whatnot.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's a positive.
And yeah, a lot of Eva X's great success is kind of as in the Whipping Girl video. Occasionally, it's just you find a ridiculously good person who sees the vision, and you let them kind of run wild with it and enjoy what they bring back. And I feel like the remixes to me really hit that. Like the Biomechanical remix of Whipping Girl and the Die Scumming remix of Body Shop are two that kind of immediately come to mind, where it's just like, actually the Biomechanical was interesting because I had initially approached Morris Black about that, but he was busy.
Mhm.
And so I went back and thought, who do I know? And I sort of knew Biomechanical vaguely from social media. I had listened to two of his tracks about 2 hours before I sent it off to him. I'm like, I just have a good feeling, Which is a good vibe. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
And it came back, and it just absolutely. He said, like, can I like screw with the tempo? I'm like, go nuts. And
Right.
it smashed. It was amazing. It was just such a knockout of the park.
That's always so fun and scary at the same time, kind of
Yeah.
like talking about doing the festival shows where you take your little sweet little baby
Mm-hmm.
in your arms and you fling it off into the world to some other artist and have no idea what that baby's going to look like when it comes back to you. And it's exciting, but it's also terrifying.
I've had very good luck so far. The baby has consistently come back looking really fucking cool. I'm very happy.
See, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So what is now, you said the release date, you said the album and where we can get it. What is some of the things coming up in the future for you here that people can be on the lookout for in addition to the album?
So 2 music videos for tracks on the album, a whole slew of live dates. We have stuff in both Canada and the US.
Oh, very cool.
And those are the 2 big things right now.
Region wise, like, are you going to be up there like Pacific Northwest when you're going into the US, or are you going down to Texas or all over the freaking place?
So far, northeast, so it's northeastern US and western Canada are the 2 regions that are solidly far along in the planning process.
Oh, okay. So you're going across the top.
We're going, well,
I guess the bottom.
You guys. Yeah, we're flying across the top to Toronto and going from there because I'm not driving across Canada.
No.
We drove to Terminus we drove out the week before the festival because I still have a lot of like close friends and people I've known for a long time in Calgary, and my day job is mostly based out there. So we drove in one day. It was about 12 hours, and I don't think I'm ready to do a full drive to Ontario, much less Eric. And the reality is, like, I couldn't do Mechanismus and Terminus at the level they were at without
them. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. As much in terms of the fact, like, obviously, like, we share a lot of the lighting kit in that. I programmed the lighting show for Terminus myself with much sadness and stress. I tell you what, I sat there in the weeks leading up to it. I'm like, this should be fine. It's DMX's. It's like IO programming, light values. I've been a programmer for years. I did hardware in school. I've got this. Yeah, the DMX gods hear you when you say shit like that, and they start uncapping the bottles of pain juice. It was the worst.
All right. Before we go to the very end here, is there anything non-music related that has been fun or exciting that you've been up to that you might want to share personal, whether it's a video game you're playing, a new series, a book you're reading, anything like that? I always like to get a little personal flavor, to know your style to go with the music.
I finally played Cyberpunk because I was stubborn and waited it out till I had an next-gen console.
Okay.
So I'm most of the way through Cyberpunk 2077 finally. I'm really, really enjoying that.
We've all wanted to be Keanu at one point or another, I'm sure.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves living in your head. It is actually, the reality is interesting. I wouldn't have picked him to be so good at that character, and yet here we are.
Right.
If you didn't know, Johnny's, it's funny, Silverhand is kind of the anti-Keanu.
Yeah, that's I haven't played the game yet, but I saw a bunch of video of it and video of him.
Yes.
So I was just like, wait a minute, you can just be Keanu Reeves in this video game? This is what I've wanted this whole time. This was almost as good as that Space Cat Tactics game where I get to be a cat space pirate.
What? Oh my God, that's awesome.
Look that up on Steam. Yeah, you need that. It's only in like a quick demo for free right now. But I'll tell you what, I was like, take my money. I can be a cat space pirate. I'm all in.
Nice. I'm definitely playing Stray next because cyberpunking cats is like my two weaknesses.
I went through that in like 3 days. Like nonstop. I just lived that game.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I am slowly wrestling out from under my real life cat, who was very sad that we were gone for a week.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm ever going to do that now. I mean, with the new kitten and the whole bit, I've got a lot of cat business going on.
Yeah, my parents actually watched her both at Mechanismus and Terminus, and the second time they messaged me like, "So if you ever need cat sitting and we're in town, we got you." So I'm covered forever.
She won them over.
Yeah, exactly. She won them over, so it's perfect. I have a cat sitter now, so I'm all set for future dates.
Wonderful. So coming up here near the end of the interview, we like to spin out to a track. Now, I mean, we have Whipping Girl, which is one that I absolutely love, but do you want us, because this will be aired around the time of the album release, do you want us to spin one of the new singles so that people can get a little taste of that? You
absolutely should.
So which one? What is the, if you were to pick one song that you thought on this, of those singles epitomizes the Eva X experience for someone who's never done it before?
You, my dude, are going to be spinning Control.
Control. Okay. Well, I mean, I love that, with like the Joy Division connection flavor, the, idea of a controller. I'm excited to hear what that'll be.
Excellent.
So from all of us here at Sounds and Shadows, thank you so much. It was wonderful having you on, and I'm really excited for the album coming up. And please, everyone out there in interweb land, enjoy Eva X Control.
Demands. Got 100 reasons why I've got to fold and start again. Needles poking in my mind, the powers that keep me confined. Think a part of me is dying. Guess I'll take these things in stride. I want to know, I won't let go. It's in my soul. I want control. I won't let go. This jail explodes. I want to know. I want control.
want control. I want control.